Hey YouTube, Joeboy here. So, chapter 897 of One Piece is out. So if you haven't checked out that chapter yet, I suggest that you do so because I will be spoiling you. Now that you have, let's begin. Guys, this chapter was so good. It was so damn good. The only complaint that I have about it is that while reading it, time just flew by. Next thing I know, the chapter was over and it felt super short, even though it was actually 15 pages. But I think that's just a testament to how much I enjoyed this chapter. And so the first thing that I want to talk about today is not maybe what you guys thought that I want to talk about. And so guys, I'm going to start off with a tinfoil hat theory. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because it interests me greatly. This could absolutely be nothing. But then again, it could be something, and Oda could be playing us for fools. But on the first page of this chapter, we see exactly one panel, or maybe two panels, showing us Mont d'Or, and a conversation that he has on Whole Cake Island. And Mont d'Or has this to say: "Link the transponder snails. I just heard about the situation over there." Meanwhile, Mont d'Or looks very concerned. And so obviously what we are supposed to get from this is that Mont d'Or is anticipating the final battle between the Big Mom pirates and their fleet, and the Strats, and Luffy coming out of the mirror. That is the obvious assumption to take away from this panel. But I just want to point this out, guys. What Mont d'Or is talking about is not directly specified. So Mont d'Or literally could be talking about something else, and we wouldn't really know because the panel blends in with everything around it. Straight up, guys, we do not know who Mont d'Or is talking to. In the panel just before this, we see Smoothie. She doesn't seem to be on the Dendenmushi. In the panel after this, we see Oven. He does not seem to be on the Dendenmushi, both of which would be the prime suspects for who would be talking to Mont d'Or at the center of communications. What this could mean is that Mont d'Or is talking to neither. In fact, could be talking to somebody who is not present in either of their groups. Again, guys, remember that this is a tinfoil hat theory. This is believing in something that is not what Oda is intending for us to believe. But again, guys, Mont d'Or asked to link the transponder snails, but after this point in time, doesn't actually say anything. I'm actually not even sure what linking the transponder snails mean. Does he just want to listen to the chaos that's going to happen in Chocolate Town, since he's not actually talking to anybody? Like, what's the purpose here? Why is this relevant information? Wouldn't he already be, quote, linked to transponder snails in the possession of Oven or Smoothie, having been talking to them already? He also previously knew about the situation that was at hand, that the Strats were heading towards Cacao Island, and that Smoothie was chasing them, that they had prepared their fleet on that island. At this point in time, he does not suspect that Luffy will come out of the mirror, because straight up last chapter, there's no chance of that happening. Yet somehow he just heard about the situation over there. Last chapter we saw Mont d'Or, he was 100% confident. But in this chapter, he has sweat beating down his face. I'm just saying that there might be something here. Could this conversation actually be about what is going on with Big Mom and Capone? Could this refer to other things which might be occurring in Whole Cake Island, which we're not currently aware of? Because as of right now, Oda decided to include a panel with Mont d'Or, describing him linking the Dendenmushi, which I would assume means call somebody on the Dendenmushi, but we don't actually get to see him talk to anybody, or anyone explaining Mont d'Or having any sort of insight, or plans, or preparations, or anything. But anyway, guys, moving on from crazy thoughts, let's talk about Peckham's. And I absolutely loved these scenes with Peckham's in this chapter. And so, guys, as you will know since I made a video on this just a few days ago, Peckham's transforming, and specifically basically sacrificing himself for these Strats, was something that was well within mine and others' expectations. In fact, in terms of Peckham's theories as a whole, man, a lot of people just nailed it out of the park. We called Peckham's so hard. Number one, Peckham's will transform into Sulong. Honestly, I don't think that that's much of a mind-blowing theory. It's just something that seemed incredibly likely to occur. If anything, it's very straightforward and hype. The more interesting theory here that a lot of people believed in was that Peckham's could not control his transformations. That's like surprisingly on point. I'm actually unsure as to what clue people picked up on in order to have this thought in their minds. The only thing that really comes to mind for me is the fact that Peckham's always wears sunglasses. It's as though he absolutely does not want to see the full moon. Meaning that for him, unlike many other minks, it's actually fatal. Meaning he can't control his transformation. And even more specifically, people in the comment section of my last video straight up said it. Back at the end of Zoe, Pedro revealed that he absolutely needed to accompany Peckham's on their journey to Whole Cake Island because of Peckham's tendencies. And a lot of people said in my video about Peckham's Sulong that this might have been foreshadowing that 1, Peckham's will transform into Sulong, and 2, basically Peckham's needed Pedro in order to control it in some way or another, and oh my god, that was on point. Anyway guys, absolutely loved it, but I think the thing that I enjoyed most was a reaffirmation of what it is that I already know about Oda's writing. He includes these little details which will clearly play a role. They have some importance. They are clear foreshadowing, and regardless of how long it takes for them to become relevant, they will eventually become relevant. Pedro dropped this line about Peckham's while we were still in the Zoe arc, and of course everybody for the most part forgot about it. They thought it was no longer relevant. We'll never know why exactly Pedro had to accompany Peckham's. And here we are nearly 80 chapters later, and that foreshadowing has finally come around full circle. And so I preach this often, but I want to preach this again, guys. There are certain details within the story that Oda includes that are clearly foreshadowing. But a lot of people give up on the idea that they will ever become relevant. They start calling it bad writing. I believe that it is called Chekhov's gun, which is a principle in storytelling. It is objectively bad to include a Chekhov's gun in your story and not have it play a role. But the great thing about One Piece is that Oda includes these elements of the story and they always come back around. It's just a matter of how long are you willing to wait for it. I see a lot of negativity, overly pessimistic people. Guys, remember to believe in Oda. But anyway, guys, talking more specifically about Peckham's, I know that we previously speculated Peckham's motivations and essentially what he was going to do, but I don't think that has any bearing on my enjoyment of the direction that Oda is deciding to take Peckham's. Guys, I want to make this blatantly clear. If you didn't get this from this chapter, I know that we talked about this recently, but I want to emphasize it. Peckham's right now is sacrificing himself. He is going to kill himself for the Straw Hat crew. We talked previously about essentially his life was over anyway. He was going to get executed by the Big Mom Pirates for being a traitor at the end of this arc, and he wanted to do one final thing for Pedro before that happened. He wanted to save the Straw Hats. And in doing so, his life does not matter. And so he told us in this chapter that he cannot control Sulong, and we learned previously from Carrot that if you do not know how to control Sulong, it will kill you. It drains all of your energy, until by morning you're dead. This is so powerful to me. I really felt it in this chapter, man. The Peckham's love. Right now, he is doing exactly what Pedro did, albeit in a different way. And right now, Oda is creating the expectation that within Whole Cake Island, the Strats will have had 3 allies die. But I do think that this in and of itself is the question. Is Peckham's actually going to die or not? And you guys know me by now, I'm pretty honest, even when my opinion may not be what your opinion is, what the popular opinion is, but of course I believe that Peckham's will find a way to survive. The amount of deaths in Whole Cake Island right now, as it stands, should stick out to you as very, very unusual. The Strat's allies are dropping like flies. In fact, the way that they have been handled up until this point in time is again, very unusual. Of course, he cannot turn off Sulong, but it's possible that by getting knocked out, that Sulong turns itself off by itself. Or maybe it turns off if he gets his eyes gouged out. That might be a real thing. Not that I think that that will happen, of course. Peckham's also reiterated in this chapter that the only person who could bring him back out of his transformation, out of going crazy beast mode, is Pedro. It creates the thought that, this is the time for Pedro to show up again. It's time for you to wake up, Peckham's. But when it comes to finales of arc, guys, what I am most partial to is finales that blow my mind. As I've said previously, I believe that Pedro is currently dead. And my expectation about Peckham's is that he will also die. And I really see no possible way that as of right now, Pound could be alive. But contrary to popular opinion, and against the expectations that Oda is creating, I believe that everybody will come back to life. And so guys, I understand that this will make me look crazy. In fact, you just hold on guys, because at the end of this, we're going to talk about the Vinsmokes and I'm going to look even crazier. I am fully willing to meme myself if it means being honest. And I feel as though I've earned quite a bit of respect for being on YouTube for several years, and my perspective being on point in most cases. But I wager that respect often, and this is another time where I'm going to wager it, with thoughts that seem too crazy for any rational person to believe. But for those of you who have been watching me for a long time, I would hope that at this point in time you would understand that I am not irrational. The more people that die, and this includes both the Big Mom pirates and the Strat's allies, the more I become suspicious that the end of the Whole Cake Island arc might result in the Edo Tensei from Naruto, or essentially powers that bring everyone back to life. And conveniently or not, you have a person in this arc with the powers that might be able to achieve this, that might be able or might be capable of this. Big Mom has the life fruit. Her powers give her control over the soul, the source of life essence itself. In my mind, it is possible for Oda to write a story in which, through various circumstances which might or might not occur, Big Mom brings everybody in her entire territory that has died to life. But Joy Boy, can't you see that this isn't the direction that this story is heading? Guys, if you allow Oda to drag you on his leash in the direction that he chooses, you will always miss the most important theories. Predicting what is considered to be unpredictable requires you to believe in things that are not directly where the story seems to be going, based on where Oda is specifically leading your thoughts. But at the same time, you cannot just blindly guess at things that could possibly happen. You need to have a reason to think these things. There needs to be something in the story, some pattern or some observation which directs your thoughts in a different direction from where Oda seems to be going. Oda throws twists and turns throughout the One Piece story, but when you go back and you look at these twists and turns, Oda always includes little details which lead in that direction that he eventually goes, but isn't obvious at the time. And that's what I'm banking on. Things like shortly after Pedro died, Luffy specifically said, "How will we be able to face him again if we don't seize the opportunity that he has provided us? But Luffy, you will never face him again because he's dead." Isn't it just strange that Brook refused to tell Sanji that Pedro died? It's just odd. You read that and you think, why? What is going on here? What is Oda planning? Why is this in the story? Or if you look at some of the unresolved plots with both Pound and Pedro, they strike you as like we're missing something. Why did that Scarecrow homie recognize Pedro? Who is he? Why is he important? Can Oda really let Pound die without actually having met his daughters, without his daughters realizing that he is their father? All of these deaths are just conspicuous, they're odd, they're unusual, it's very unlike One Piece. I know a lot of people out there will say, well, Oda said in the SBS that he refused or he won't ever bring people back to life, but that's where my thoughts are right now. From the very beginning of Whole Cake Island, when Mondor ordered the bits of Big Mom's soul to collect the lifespan taken from Charlotte Moscato, I believe Oda foreshadowed that the dead can come back to life, even if we don't understand the why or how or when. The end of every single arc in One Piece has always blown my mind. I refuse to believe in an ending of Whole Cake Island in which it's anticlimactic. If you speculated that at the end of the Zou arc, Momonosuke would show off the capability of controlling Zunisha in order to smack down Jack's fleet, the person who speculated that would have been ridiculed and made fun of. And he also would have been correct. Not saying that I speculated that or I know of anybody who speculated that, but the point is clear. But anyway, let's talk about a few other things before we get into the Vinsmoke. Firstly, a lot of people are kind of dissatisfied with, Peckham's too long in this chapter. We barely got to see it, and he didn't really do anything. In fact, this is precisely what Brule said would happen before they ended up coming out of the mirror, which almost guarantees that, of course, Peckham's more will happen with Peckham's in the upcoming chapters. There's no way that Brule is on points that's, the Big Mom Pirates, the army is going to suppress him in an instant. At some point in time, Peckham's will break free. He also seems to be partially conscious right now, so he will lose consciousness, I expect. And with this expectation, of course, I do believe that we will have a chapter of endless hype surrounding Peckham's too long. Basically, what is going on right now, and Peckham's even said it himself, that the moment that he transforms, he will be vulnerable. And as soon as he begins to transform, the Big Mom Pirates are covering up his eyes, so it's like he's wearing sunglasses once again. Another thing which caught my attention in this chapter is that, as I suspected, the Big Mom Pirates seemed convinced that Luffy did not defeat Katakuri, Luffy outwitted him. So again, I want to emphasize that I do believe at some point in time the Big Mom Pirates will realize within this arc that Luffy straight up defeated Katakuri, it's not that he just ran away. Speaking of the Big Mom Pirates in this chapter, man, Oven was a lot more impressive than I think that a lot of us gave us credit for from what we saw of him previously in Chocolate Town. And I think a lot of that has to do with essentially Oven being caught off guard. And I think that this is an important lesson to take from One Piece in general. When characters are caught off guard, they often can look very foolish. Sanji has been caught off guard more than anybody else in this entire arc, and Sanji again got hit, but he's completely fine. I see a lot of people freaking out about Sanji taking a blow. It's fine. I also see a lot of people being pessimistic that, of course, Sanji won't get his moment. Oda's just going to continue to hand him L's for the rest of the story, and again, I want to preach patience. But by far the most amazing fighting feat from this chapter, and I can't say that I know for sure this is what happened, but it really does seem that way. It seems as though Ichiji and the rest of the Vinsmoke handled Snack in moments. Like, it appears as though Yonji's foot is on Snack's head in the final panel. I mean, you guys can discuss it. It's not guaranteed that it is Snack, but it certainly looks like him. And he was shown just moments before then. If that's Snack, oh my god, Ichiji was underestimated. Ichiji and the Vinsmoke as a whole. And I will refuse to believe that Sanji is any weaker than Ichiji and the rest of his brothers, which means that it seems as though it's very possible for Sanji to be capable of defeating somebody at Snack's level, if that's Snack. Maybe even defeating them easily, which is a crazy thought. But anyway guys, a complaint that I see from many people about this chapter, although it seems like most people really enjoyed it, is that it was pretty predictable, ignoring some of these smaller details. Right, we called Peckham's, we kind of knew his situation in regards to his transformations, or we suspected, and the Vinsmoke showing up was just about as obvious as it could get. The expectation Oda created was that the Vinsmokes were now some kind of friend, they would be showing up, this is the time that they would show up, it's within our expectations. And so guys, Oda loves to do this. Oda loves to create plans, and then follow those plans. Find sort of interesting ways to deviate from the plan without deviating from the plan, until everything just blows up in their faces. Not everything in One Piece is a huge twist. Not everything in One Piece is intended to be a huge twist. But if you guys are feeling anything close to what I'm feeling right now, you should feel the huge twist coming. But it is neither Peckham's Sulong transformation or the Vinsmoke showing up last second to save them from annihilation. There's times where Oda can be a bit formulaic. Oda definitely has patterns to his storytelling, and I can point out several instances in Whole Cake Island which this particular scenario reminds me of, and may contribute to the feeling that I have. We'll start off at the very beginning of the arc. The intention was to rescue Sanji, and so in order to rescue Sanji, they needed to arrive in Whole Cake Island, then they needed to go through the seducing woods and defeat who was there, and then find Sanji. And that is precisely what happened. Did it happen in the way that we expected? 100%? Of course not. Oda deviates from the plan without deviating from the plan. Luffy needs to defeat Cracker. Okay, now the fight is taking 11 hours and Luffy is using, Gear 4th Tankman. But Luffy still defeats Cracker. And then you have this moment where Oda tries to tease a resolution, tries to tease sort of an ending to their goal or their plan. The objective is complete. Luffy and Nami leave the seducing woods, and who do they find? They find Sanji just pretty much ready to be picked up so that they can leave. arc over. But then this is where Oda gets you with the twist. When Sanji turns around and says straight to Luffy's face, "I'm not part of your crew anymore, go back." That moment is the twist. That is the moment that becomes incredibly hard to predict. We'll look at another example from Whole Cake Island. Capone devised a plan in order to kill Big Mom. And so we start off beginning to learn the plan, and then we reach the wedding and everything goes according to the plan. Again, there's slight deviations from the plan without deviating from the plan. The objective was to destroy the portrait of Mother Carmel. Nobody really saw Brooke smashing it as opposed to somebody else. There was all sorts of intervention and confusion involving Katakuri. But at the end of the day, Oda again tries to tease a resolution to the plan. He continually, throughout the progression of this story, gives you the impression that possibly this will succeed, without drastically deviating from what it is that he made us think, until you get into the actual twist, which was Big Mom screaming. Again, that is the part that is incredibly hard to predict. Right now, in Whole Cake Island, it feels as it felt like in these previous instances in Whole Cake Island. The ominous feeling of something crazy is about to occur. You have a clear-cut plan. And Oda will continually lead your thoughts in a direction which will make you believe that this plan will end up being successful. The end goal of the plan, of course, being to take Luffy and Sanji and then get on the ship and then escape Whole Cake Island. And I will admit, if it does just end up going like that, it would seem really underwhelming. Which is why I much prefer to believe, especially if this is the end of Whole Cake Island, for this to be the final great twist. Whatever this ominous feeling ends up being. And I really do think that it will have something to do with Big Mom, who I do not expect to be off-screened at the end of this arc with eating the cake and then she's just gone. Nuh-uh. The moment Oda starts dragging it out, the moment that Capone does not instantly feed Big Mom this cake and it's like, okay, let's feed her this now. Oh wait, let's wait until, chapter 900 to feed it to her. You already know something unexpected is going to happen. Oda is building our anticipation. And if he builds our anticipation only to give us what it is that we already expect, then you create a story that people won't enjoy. So anyway, guys, don't lose faith. These speculations are not top tier speculations. They are well within our expectations. They're nothing crazy. We should just remain hype for the possibility of seeing Peckham's and do things in Sulong and the Vinsmoke fighting. This is awesome and hype. Enjoy. But don't confuse it for the moment in the story that you have been waiting for, that you have been anticipating. Because I stand with conviction telling you that that moment has yet to occur. And so lastly, guys, we want to talk about the Vinsmoke. And I'm certain that this video is number one, long, and number two, counterintuitive and not, directly what the chapter tells us. So I'm going to trigger a lot of people, and the end will only trigger people more because I'm certain that many people out there will disagree with me. Yes, I read the end of this chapter, and yes, I still believe that there is conflict to be had between the Vinsmoke and Sanji. How can a rational person possibly think this? Joy Boy is losing it, man. Like, just accept when you're wrong, dude. Well, guys, I'm going to make a video exclusively about this later in the week, where I will explain my thoughts and stand behind what I have observed in the story. The key distinction here is understanding why the Vinsmoke have decided to intervene. What is their motivation? I think a lot of people would expect me to not enjoy the end of this chapter, but I enjoyed it a lot. Because the thing that I will or won't enjoy is the reason behind what it is that they are doing. Oda needs to give me a good reason for their actions. And I expect that he will. And I expect it to remain consistent with their characters. And I do not expect it to be because Sanji has changed their minds about being spoiled princes that don't respect food or don't respect women. We talked earlier about the concept of Chekhov's gun. Oda created Chekhov's gun the moment in which it became a priority in the story for Sanji to resolve the conflict with his family and teach them that their way of life is wrong and counter to every fiber of his being. Oda cannot ignore this. But I very well could end up being wrong. It's happened before and it will happen again. So even if I do end up being wrong, I look forward to Oda blowing my mind with an explanation for why the Vinsmoke have had a change of heart. And as I said, I will be making a video specifically about this in the coming days. But as always, guys, I am curious as to what you thought about this chapter. This chapter was just fantastic. Enjoyed it so much and extremely hyped for what's to come. Let me know if you noticed anything from this chapter that I may have missed. Just share your thoughts. Like the video if you like the video, dislike the video if you dislike the video. Make sure to subscribe if you want to be notified for my future content. And as always, guys, have a wonderful day.